Okay, so there's sales, there's marketing, there's product, there's customer success. There's maybe your financial model for your business. There's your pitch deck. What exactly is a go-to-market strategy? And is this like a fancy word that consultants just made up? It's not. It's actually a little bit of an old school term that now is all new again. And if you're going to be growing your SaaS business effectively, then you're going to need a go-to-market strategy. Now, what exactly goes into a go-to-market strategy? And what's different between a go-to-market strategy and your sales plan or your marketing plan or your product-led growth plan? In this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 3 principles you absolutely need to know about what exactly is a go-to-market strategy, how it's different than these other components of your business, how to fit it all together, and how to actually build one so that when you actually operate with your go-to-market strategy, you can actually accelerate the growth of your SaaS business. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you are new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode like this every single Sunday with actionable principles and strategies on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode like this with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, this fast-growing community, if you're already part of my coaching programs for growing your SaaS business, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. Now, I remember when I was building out ToutApp, we started with product-led growth. People would just sign up, swipe a credit card. Then we started getting into a sales model. And then I ended up hiring a chief revenue officer who was this like old school dude that used to come into work with the 3-piece suit. And his name was Frank Swain. Incredible person. I learned so much from him. And he was like, TK, we got to get aligned on the go-to-market strategy. And it was one of those things where I'm like, what's a go-to-market strategy? Like, how does this work? We already have sales, we have marketing, we have distribution, we have product-led growth. Like, how does this all come together? And that's when I really learned the power of a real go-to-market strategy and how it can actually help you accelerate the growth of your SaaS business. Now, go-to-market is now a term that's like thrown around all the time now, along with a bunch of other terms. There's distribution, there's product-led growth, there's sales strategy, there's marketing strategy, there's SDR strategy, outbound strategy, content strategy. It can get really, really confusing, but it doesn't need to. It doesn't have to be this confusing. And so my job here is to actually break this down into the 3 core principles you absolutely need to know. And when you apply these, you'll be able to accelerate the growth of your SaaS business. So if you're excited to dig into principle number 1, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's dig right into it. So traditionally, in any company, you're gonna essentially have some key pillars. You're gonna have product. That's essentially, well, what is it that we're selling? How does the product work? Does the product help in distribution, or is it something they just get into once they buy it, right? Like those are some questions you're going to be answering. Number 2, there's marketing. Marketing is essentially, how do I get more people to know about me today than they did yesterday? What channels do I use? Do I run ads? Do I do blogging? Do I do content? Do I do SEO? Those are questions that you'd be answering for your marketing. There's your sales. Now, does the product sell itself? Do they just swipe the credit card and we have a product-led growth approach? Or do we need actual salespeople because people are gonna have questions before they fork over $100,000 to buy our platform? So there's essentially going to be sales questions. And then there's customer success because we're in a recurring revenue business model. That's why SaaS is so powerful. And for that, it's, well, do we have customer success people? Do we do renewals? What kind of upsells can we do? So these are all the things that go into essentially your revenue strategy. Now, in a lot of cases, even in the early stages, you tend to break these into these pillars and these silos. Product is over there with engineering, and they're like, well, how do we do this? And let's just create the features and make it really beautiful. And we got to add this one more feature because everyone's asking for it. Marketing's over there. They're just trying to do the blogging thing and get the brand out there. Sales is over here. They're like, the marketing leads are terrible. We're going to go figure this out on our own. Everyone's in silos. And the power of a go-to-market strategy is you kind of flip that and you say, you know what? Let's create this one end-to-end strategy that's gonna really align all these critical pillars in the business. And you as the CEO and you as the founder are essentially owning this, not your VP of marketing or your CMO or your VP of sales. You can't outsource this core strategy. You're essentially owning this as the CEO or the founder. And you're saying, cool, how do all these disparate pieces actually start to align together on a cohesive go-to-market strategy. And that's the difference. The difference is instead of just saying, well, we're product-led, meaning let's the product people figure it out. You're saying, let's bring the product people, let's bring the marketing people, let's bring the sales people, let's bring the success, and let's all sit together and define exactly how we're going to bring in customers, what the experience is going to be, how we're going to convert to revenue, and how we're going to grow that revenue. And you are essentially creating that end-to-end strategy. And that's the difference. A lot of times companies, and this could be even in the super earliest stages where it's just you and your co-founder and you're figuring this out, or it could be in much later stages where you have a full team of VP of marketing and VP of sales. You still have to get very crystal clear about what your go-to-market strategy is. And the more definite that you get in defining this, the more successful you're going to be in driving that growth. So that's the fundamental difference. Instead of thinking in silos, thinking about a cohesive strategy that aligns all these critical functions. And this is true for companies of all sizes. If it's just you and your co-founder, you're essentially wearing the hat of product and marketing and sales. So you want to get aligned on exactly how all these pieces are going to work. If you are in the mid stages, right? Like maybe you raise a seed round, you have a couple of people, but no one's like a full VP leader. So you still want to get aligned. Or you could be in a Series A, Series B, Series C. I have coaching clients in those stages as well. They still need to revamp their go-to-market strategy. So this is not stage specific. Everyone needs to be doing this to make sure you're all aligned across these core pillars instead of operating as silos. So that's principle number one. You want to flip it. You don't want to think about it in terms of pillars. You want to think about it in a cohesive way to bring everyone together. That's principle number one. Principle number two around a go-to-market strategy and how to think differently about it is you want to think about strategy separate from execution. All right, so let's break that down. Why is it called go-to-market strategy versus go-to-market execution? Well, execution, like if we were to really dig into that part, let me see if I can do this right. Execution, it's so tricky with the mirror. There we go. With execution, you essentially have the activities. And a lot of times, teams, go-to-market teams, founders will skip the go-to-market strategy part and they'll jump to the execution. They'll be writing blog posts. They'll be sending outbound emails. They'll be spending money on ads. They'll be putting in a viral component because they're product led. And a lot of times they'll come to me and apply to join my coaching program. And they'll say, look, we sent out 1,000 outbound emails. No one responded. I'm like, okay, so you did the activities, but did you do the strategy? Did you actually define the strategy? So a lot of times we make this common mistake, and I've done this myself. That's why I know to recognize it in others. You kind of jump to the execution without thinking about the strategy. Now, what is the strategy? Well, to put it simply, and we'll get into this in the third principle more, but to put it simply, the strategy is, well, who are you serving? I talk a lot about building your ideal customer profile, but an ideal customer profile, when done right, is very specific. Gets into triggers, it gets into specific attributes, which most people don't get into. They kind of have a very half-baked ICP. So getting super clear on who are we serving, who are we not serving. It also goes into why us? Like what is uniquely differentiated about you and your offering and your company, why they should do business with you? Before you write a single email, before you run a single ad, you should ask yourself that and create a real strategy around that. It also goes into how, right? Like how does a customer go from being aware of us to actually trusting us to actually paying for our product? Do they do a free trial? Do they get on a demo? And you want to be thoughtful about those things because those impact the type of channels you go after, the way you message things. So all of these things get skipped over and you start executing, and no wonder you don't get responses to your outbound or your ads and you're losing money. It's because a lot of companies and a lot of founders, and I've made this mistake before too, you skip to the execution part instead of first defining the strategy. And so principle number two is don't just do the execution, align all these functions and teams into thinking about, well, what is our strategy around this? Get these core components down. And again, it can be very easy to just outsource it to your demand gen person or your VP of marketing, but truly, as I said in principle number one, it spans all these different pillars of your company. So the founder and the CEO really needs to own it. Now they can enlist the help of all the other people, but you kind of need to own it because this is a company level strategy on how we're going to go to market. And there are a lot of tough things that you're going to be deciding on. This is one of the big reasons I'll have, like a random marketing lead or like even VPs of marketing apply for my go-to-market program. And I'll say kindly like, hey, I'm sorry, we only work with the CEO. We work with the CEO, and then the CEO brings in everyone else. I'm not trying to be snooty, but it's only the CEO that can make the decisions necessary to really get the go-to-market strategy aligned. You can't, you won't be able to. And so I don't want to set you up for failure. So the CEO really owns this. Now you know like the first two, which is how do you get alignment and what is the difference between strategy and execution. I have a third one that goes into, well, what does an unstoppable go-to-market strategy even look like? Like what are the key components so you can build yours? Now, before I go into that, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power of a go-to-market strategy? Are you starting to see the difference between, well, there's marketing and there's product, there's sales, versus bringing it all together into one cohesive strategy on how we go to market and how we differentiate and who we market to? Are you starting to see the power in this? If you're starting to see the power in this, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And also, can I just get a yes in the comments below? I just love hearing from all you guys. Now, if you're in this stage where you're saying, you know what, we need a go-to-market strategy. We're doing maybe the execution or we're doing the silos. We need a cohesive go-to-market strategy so we can grow faster. Then I encourage you to check out my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this video. I'll also link to it below. But right now, let's go into principle number 3, which is super important because principle number 3 is going to tell you how to bring all this together. Principle number 3 is, well, how do I create an unstoppable go-to-market strategy? Now, there's essentially 3 core pieces to a great go-to-market strategy. It can get overly complicated for no good reason, and people do overcomplicate it, trying to make you like being like, oh my God, you can't figure it out. Look, there's 3 core components to it. The first thing is your ideal customer profile. This is a great way to really align your functions, your marketing, your product, your sales. Even if it's 3 people and wearing multiple hats, you can align yourselves, or if you've got a full team around, hey, who is the type of customer we're really serving? What is our ideal customer profile? This type of work can actually lead to a lot of important decisions being made easier. Meaning you can decide, you know what, we're only going to go into the mid-market, we're not going to go into enterprise. What this means is then product can properly prioritize whether they need to do single sign-on or not, or whether they need to do a certain type of security audit or not, depending on the type of ideal customer profile you're going into. In the same way, marketing, or whoever's in charge of marketing, can decide, well, who are the 100 companies we absolutely must go after and send outbound emails to? Instead of trying to blanket 1,000 and send a generic email, we can get a lot more personalized. And so you can start to see how if you define the ideal customer profile, then you can get a lot smart in a very specific way. You can get a lot smarter about how to align these teams and setting the priorities for all of them. For example, if you're going after, let's just say the small business market, and you're doing a $9 a month product, then you probably don't need to have salespeople. In fact, you shouldn't have salespeople. And so that really defines, well, we don't want salespeople. We need a much more product-led strategy. So these kind of questions around your ideal customer profile help flesh out the strategy and helps you make decisions about the key pillars in your business. The second piece of an unstoppable go-to-market strategy is your manifesto. Manifesto is this core document that really defines what movement you're creating, what transformation you're bringing to your customers, why you guys versus anyone else. What happens if they don't go with this transformation that you're going to be pitching them? Manifesto is one of my ways to actually create the core messaging, the positioning, the value proposition, the strategic narrative around your business. And so often, as I said in principle number 2, companies will start to do the execution and send out those 1,000 emails without doing the core work around the messaging and the manifesto. But when you do that, then you can actually be a lot more specific in who you're going after and how. And that's the power in this. And the cool part about this is the reason I call it my unstoppable go-to-market strategy is because one builds off of the other. Because you're getting specific about your ICP, your manifesto is going to be a lot more specific. And the more specific you are in SaaS and in marketing, the more successful you're going to be. The more generic you are, there's so much competition. There's so many companies doing the same thing. You just won't differentiate yourself. And that's super important and very powerful. And so the first two is your ICP and your manifesto. Once you have those two, then you kind of have the strategy piece. And then what you're trying to jump into is, well, what is our execution? And the big thing that I see is a lot of times companies get very scatterbrained in their execution. Meaning you're like, oh, we'll do a blog post. Oh, we'll do a webinar. Or maybe we'll send out an outbound campaign. You're all over the place. And ultimately, it takes a lot of work to really master one channel. And it takes a lot of work to build that momentum and build that trust with your target audience. Just one email going to your target audience, no matter how great it is, isn't going to build that trust. It gets built over time as they see you more and more and more. as they see you in the outbound email, as they see you in a retargeting ad, as they see you in a LinkedIn post, and you can start to piece together the right play. This is what I call a Broadway show. A Broadway show is the third key component of an unstoppable go-to-market strategy. And when you have that, it's a consistent set of activities that you're running every single week, that you're measuring, that you're iterating on, and that you're ratcheting up as you get more success. And this is what creates a scalable go-to-market machine. And that's the third piece of an unstoppable go-to-market strategy. So let's recap. All right, why do you even need a go-to-market strategy? Well, the difference is instead of operating in silos, a go-to-market strategy will align all the key functions, regardless of whether it's multiple hats being worn by a few people or you have a full team. Regardless of stage, a proper go-to-market strategy will actually help you align all your key functions around here's exactly how we're gonna go into the market. A proper go-to-market strategy will stop you from executing blindly and first help you define the key questions that you need to answer to help you decide on exactly how to execute. That's super important. That's principle number 2. And number 3, when you actually write out your go-to-market strategy, you actually flesh out your ICP, your manifesto, your Broadway show, then you don't just have any go-to-market strategy, you actually have an unstoppable go-to-market strategy. And that's gonna be scalable, that's gonna be measurable, and you'll be able to iterate on it and make it better and better. And as you do that, it's gonna make your next round of funding that much easier because you can clearly articulate exactly how your go-to-market machine is working. Now, those are the 3 core principles that I wanted to show you, and that's why you need a go-to-market strategy. It's not all hype, and you can cut through all the noise. This is clearly what you need to focus on, these 3 key things: ICP, manifesto, and your Broadway show, and you have a go-to-market strategy. Now, you may not know exactly how to build out a go-to-market strategy, how to really nail these 3 key components. This is exactly why I created my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. Inside of this coaching program, I give you the step-by-step training and instructions on how to flesh out these core pillars. And I give you my coaching so that we can actually figure out the strategy, make the tough calls, run it, test it, and iterate on it. So if you're serious about building out your go-to-market strategy and accelerating the growth of your SaaS business and putting these principles into play, I encourage you to join my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. To learn more about it, just go to tkcater.com/GTM. tkcater.com/GTM. All the details are there. There's a small application process. It's super easy, and then we can figure out if we can help you. Now, if you got value from this video, be sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. I also drop a video like this where I go in depth from my 15 years of experience in building, scaling, and exiting SaaS businesses. I go in depth into core principles that you need to know to actually scale your SaaS business. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon if you haven't already. Also, if you have a fellow founder or a team member, if you're part of a founder community, a Slack group, a WhatsApp group, and you feel that these founders that you're with or your team members will get value from this video, please share it with them. It'll mean the world to us. We put a lot of love into these videos. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is gonna be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode, or I'll see you inside of the go-to-market program. We'll link to it below so you can get all the details.